Oh my God, we're still here. Patrick Hickey Jr. is coming up in a second. Writer, author, proud dad, New York guy. I don't run into many New York guys. I'm usually out here in LA doing my thing. But if you want to know about getting out there and getting your things written up, published, moving, created, this is the place to be, because for BenjaCon 2021, we've also got the amazing creator, Patrick Hickey Jr., author of the Minds Behind the Game series. He's going to be on. I know I'm running like 5 minutes late, but guess what? That's what happens in internet time. Things get a little fuzzy. And if you watch Loki, you know what I'm talking about. Boom, boom. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing started. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comments and keep this thing flowing. It's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. And here we go already. Boom. What's up, my man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right. I am living here at 6 p.m., connecting with you at 9 p.m. way out in New York. How are
Yep.
things?
Everything's good. Long day. Kids are sleeping. Wife is relaxing. So all is good. All is good. Happy to be here.
All right. So, um, wow, you are one of the most active people I know. And I am proud to say that I have a whole thing about iron sharpens iron. When you run into people who are doing something and you're vibing, keep connected with those people. And you're one of the people who, um, you're a writer, author. I see that a lot. What's the difference between writer and author?
An author writes books. A writer sits in Starbucks and admires what they write on their Microsoft Word, I guess.
Ah, yes, yes. There we go.
So
So, actually, what do you call yourself now?
it's funny because I was on a podcast like a month ago and somebody was like, I can't describe you in a sentence. It's like impossible. So
Yeah,
I kind of just call myself a content creator. Because I'm an author, a voice actor. I'm writing for games now. I'm writing a comic book. Like I've got thousands of articles out there. So it's just like I'm a journalist. I'm a college professor. I'm all these things. But at the end of the day, I'm a content creator. That's what I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
I would never call myself an influencer because I never want to call myself an influencer. But I think content creator is. I think I'm comfortable with that.
But you have so much influence, right?
I don't think my
Yeah,
opinion means any more than anybody else's,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's a story for another day.
Very awesome. So we spoke last year, when I was just kind of like, hey, let me do something to bring to the people what I do in my personal life anyway. I would do on the personal side, I do FaceTimes, I just do conference calls with people, I would do podcast recordings that I never published. We would just get together and talk noise
Yeah.
during the Comic-Con season. And, you know, pandemic happened. I decided to do BenjaCon. It came out and it was just a random thing. And I recorded some videos and posted them and it was cool. So I didn't think I'd be doing it again, but here we are again. And I'm like, you know what? This is a valuable little thing we're doing. Let's keep it going.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. How are you feeling 1 year later? You're still doing your creating. You're still in this crazy time. How are you feeling, just in general?
I mean, I think COVID was the best thing that ever happened to my writing career. Um,
Mm,
I think I was a workaholic before.
hmm
Um, like I would write in the morning on the bus on the way to work. I would write before work in my office. I would write during my lunch break. I would write on the bus on the way home to work, and working hard and working smart. But
Yeah.
then when the pandemic happened, I lost all of that, and I had to write from
Mm.
home.
Okay.
And at first, it was a little bit of a challenge because I would write before everyone woke up and write when everyone went to bed. And then over time, I feel like my family really started to understand like what I do,
Okay.
and they became a support system that I didn't know was there. Because writing could
Yeah.
be incredibly lonely sometimes,
Right.
you know. And the fact that like my 4-year old um, can sit next to me and watch me write or watch me add a script to a comic book and like totally be into it. Um, it's like one of the best feelings. like ever. That my daughter could sit in my man cave behind me while I do voiceover for a game or do a trailer for a game and laugh and like I have to go shh, 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 like it
Yeah.
changes the experience so much, and I wouldn't change the last year. I mean, I know the last year has gone so slow for so many people,
Right.
but I mean, it's gone incredibly quick for me. I mean, I finished 2 books. I've written like 6 issues of my comic. I've done voiceover on like 6 games in the last year. Um, I wrote 12 side quests for RPG that's in development right now. Like I did so many things. Just yeah, it's been the last year has been amazing for me. I didn't put on the COVID-15 either. I kind of
Yeah.
forced
Yeah.
myself to stay like in shape, and my wife has been great that way. Like she's been like, you need to go walk, like, go and like
Yeah. Yeah.
motivate me and stuff. So it's just like it's been amazing.
No, the support system is real, man. It's funny. I started connecting with an aunt that I really didn't mesh with when I was younger.
Yeah.
She was always like dismissing what I said, like, "Oh, Benjamin, just calm down," and I was like, "No, shut up, you old lady." Yeah, I was just like, but it's weird, and now that I've gotten older, something pisses me off, and I kind of started doing what she did, like just go calm down, just blah blah blah, just get your work done, just keep moving, keep your energy flowing. And I was like, holy crap. And I got a Christmas card from her, and I called her and I was like, hey, let's talk. And it was just this new vibe of, even in tough times, keeping going. That creative energy is is so important. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I think I'm hearing that you do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just feel like for me, it's just like it's kind of the first place I go. If I'm stressed, if I'm angry, then I gotta write.
Yeah.
Then I gotta do something that I feel will resonate with somebody else. Like I have to create something that somebody else can enjoy. And I think when you're younger and you want to be a writer, it's all about, well, did I say this the way that I wanted it to be? Is this exactly the way I wanted it to be? And
Yeah.
then as you get older, you're like, writing is selfless. Writing is about connecting with other people. Writing is about trying to present something so someone else can be engaged, entertained, educated, all of those things. So it's just like, yeah, writing is just like, I have to write pretty much like every single day. If I don't, then there's a problem. So so
Right.
yeah, I totally get it.
I know what you mean. It almost gets to a, and I don't want to put this in a bad light, but it almost gets to a neurotic point of view where you're like, and you
Oh
feel
yeah,
that, yeah, I got to get that out. I got to do it.
absolutely,
So
absolutely. It's like I've told people this before, like during podcasts, that like I've never drank and I've never smoked before in my life. I've never done any drugs. So it's like
impressive.
writing is like my fix. It's
Yeah.
just like writing and Dunkin' Donuts coffee and my wife are like my fix. Like I need those
Yeah.
3 things, like pretty much, and my kids, I need those every single day, and I'll be okay. But it's just like yeah, writing has just been a huge part of my life. And then I would say like a couple of months before my daughter was born, when I decided to do the Minds Behind the Games books, because I was just sick and tired of making other people look good, and sick and tired of like building brands for other people and not
Mm,
like defining like my legacy. That's when like things changed so much, when I started
yeah.
to take, it's funny, an author saying this, but like when I started taking authorship of my own legacy,
Right.
um, that's when I feel like my writing went to another level, and I'm so much more proud of like the stuff that I've done over the past, say, 5 years than the stuff that I've done for the 10 years before that in journalism and video game journalism. So,
Awesome. So I want to follow up on that definitely,
yeah.
but before we do,
hmm
shout out to that game dragon, Jay
Oh, he's
Brown,
awesome.
Ain't No Grave Comic, Capri Upholstery, Galaxy Comics, Gonzaku 82, Jay Brown, yeah, M Jolly, Tesherms, Fern
Got
the
some great
Camper,
people in here right now. Some big
yeah,
supporters, some of those people. Oh, Nick Alcorn is one of the most talented artists I've ever met in my entire life. I
Very
love
awesome.
Galaxy Comics in Brooklyn. There's so many great people in here right now. So,
It's awesome. And
yeah.
what's funny? I was telling Fern the Camper's in here. I was telling Holly from Fern the Camper that Instagram was my least favorite social media platform.
Hmm.
It just felt like a show and tell. It just felt like a hey, look at me kind of thing. And there were people putting real stuff out there, and being authentic and having fun with it. But
Sure.
for me, it just wasn't meshing. And that's funny, kind of as a visual person. So at some point, I said, you know what? Let me just be social with it. Let me put myself out there as a
Hmm.
brand. You've heard my branding discussions,
Absolutely.
so so
I
you've
love them.
pro- so you've seen a change in me on this platform over
Yeah.
the past year or whatever. But I started getting on here, and if you go to a comment section, all you'll see is like thumbs up, hearts, explosions, fire, or whatever. I leave a thoughtful comment, and the most somebody with like 5 million followers will notice, oh, an actual comment. I'll respond to that. And it's like, there it goes. Just
Yeah.
actually trying to connect with people instead of like jockeying for likes, hawking your Forex trader,
Oh, yeah.
quote unquote business.
Uh-huh. Oh my God. Yeah, I could care less about likes on posts. Like I use Instagram totally as stream of consciousness. I think I just posted probably like 45 minutes ago, Bulls versus Blazers on the Sega Genesis because I was just
Yeah.
like I could totally go for a game of that right now. So
Yeah.
it's just like super stream of consciousness. I post a lot because my mind is constantly going a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
So that's like the second that I just kind of went with that I started enjoying Instagram 1,000 times more. And my following, like before COVID, I had less than 1,000 people, and now I have over six. And I mean, one day I'd love to have that little blue check. Maybe when a couple more, games come out that I've done voiceover on, maybe when a couple more books come out and stuff. But it's just like I've met so many amazing people. Like yesterday, I got a message from somebody, my buddy in the UK. Um, he made me a Game Boy with a clean juice mod, which means it doesn't use batteries, and
Huh.
a backlit screen, and it has Conjury painted on the front and the back. I've
Oh,
never
that's
met this man
crazy.
before,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm like, I wanted to cry. I'm just like, that's what social media is about, meeting people that you would never meet before and connecting with them. I mean, come on, Ben, like 15 years ago, I'm playing Rockstar table tennis and it's like one of my favorite Xbox 360 games of all time. I wanted
Yeah.
you in my first book. I messaged you when I was writing my first book. I didn't get in contact with you eventually until like I started the sports book, but I was just like when it was my idea to originally start this book series, like I wanted Rockstar Table Tennis in my first book because I was like this is like one of the coolest games I've ever played,
Yeah.
you know?
And
So
it is a weird story too. So yeah.
yeah, and now we talk. And now we talk and I'm just like I know this guy, it's insane. I love it.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing how far we've come and the changes we've had as a society. And
Yeah.
I don't think people have really stopped to realize how amazing and crazy all of this is in the past 10, 15 years. It's just,
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
like I don't think 15 years ago, I don't think it would be possible for us to have met to discuss like our work.
right.
I don't think, and now it's like I don't belong on this screen sharing it with you right now. Like you are literally a rock star, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, but now we're talking. I love it. It's great.
No, and that's where things connect. And it's funny, I've actually tried to avoid a lot of connections just because, I'd run into people and, they weren't saying something I liked. So it's like, this is bothering me. But now that I found out, like you were saying earlier about just posting and, you know, the amount of content, you just have an idea and you post it. Once I stopped trying to be a certain something and made that transition into no, I have an idea, this is a decent outlet for it, boom, let's go. No, I
Yeah.
have this, let's go. Your output naturally increases because you're just flowing with your environment, whether
Hmm.
it's digital or, in real life with somebody at some point. So
Absolutely.
I get it.
Absolutely. It's like for me, Instagram works best when when it feels like you're doing like a 160 note combo in Guitar Hero. When your hands and your mind are just free flowing and you don't even know what you're doing and it's just muscle memory and you're
Hmm.
just rocking out. Like that's when I feel like social media works the best. When you have to try super hard, it's like then it's a chore. Why do it? You know, it's hard work anyway, but
Yeah.
you've got to at least try and be as authentic as possible, you know, and just have fun.
Yeah. The flowing and having fun and being authentic, that's hard for a lot of people because they see it as you know, as a media platform, and we think
Yeah.
a lot of us think of that as, okay, let me go set up this shot, let me go do this. I'm like, hey, that's fine if that's your fun,
Yeah.
but don't feel pressured to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I feel the same way. It's just like, um, I don't think I'm the best looking person in the entire world, but I probably take like a selfie a day because I'm just like, you know what? I'm comfortable in my own skin and I got cool stuff behind me or like I just bought a new Tiger Electronics like Spider-Man game, whatever. I'm gonna have fun. And you know what?
tiger. Yeah,
You know, like people will come and be like, "Where the hell did you get that?" Oh, I didn't even know that exists. And that's the point, you know, just to have fun and connect. So,
yeah. Speaking of connecting, I'm sure most of the people here know who you are and what you've done. Um, but here's mine's behind the shooter games, mine's behind the sports games, and the OG mine's behind the games. I got a few more to catch up on,
oh, oh, you're
but
making me teary. The fact that those are in your hands is so cool to
these
me.
things are awesome, man.
Thank you.
And I really, I'm one of those people that's out there on the slight edge of, hey, why don't we do this? Maybe not something quote unquote artsy and weird, but like when the table tennis idea was floating around Rockstar and I got assigned to it, a lot of people ran away from the project. They were kind of like, "Are you kidding me? That's dumb. And they ran away from it."
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, no, that's something that needs to kind of be explored. That's an interesting angle. And when I run across stuff like that, like your books here, like what I was getting from you was like, no, this isn't like crazy weird out there, but it just hasn't been tapped into. It hasn't. We haven't really scratched the surface of it. So when you're in that zone, you know, how do you as a creator, embrace that unknown area of I'm doing something new and different, but I got to do it.
I just felt like when I first started the books, my wife was 5 months pregnant, and I knew that I wanted to do something really special before my daughter was born, like something that I could kind of hang my hat on. Um, I didn't want to be one of those people that was like, I could have did this, but then I became a dad. I could have done this, but then I got married. I could have did this, and then da 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 da. So I'm just like, I've got to do something. And originally, I wanted to continue to build the journalism program at the college that I've taught at for 15 years. And I'm the assistant director of the journalism program at Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn. And I went to my director and I'm just like, why don't we add a multimedia journalism course? I've taught it at other colleges. Let's do this. Let's build this program. And he was just like, no, I'm good. He's got tenure. He's got no reason to like want to do any more work, you know? So I was like really pissed off and I'm like, I just like instinctually then it was just like I snapped like I'm gonna write a book then. And
Mm-hmm.
he goes, and we shared an office for 10 years, you know? And he's like, go write a book, kid.
The
And I was like, okay. And I went in my man cave and I sat down and I'm like, I'm gonna write a book.
Yeah.
And so I'm surrounded by, over 3,000 games. And I just start pulling out games like King's Bounty on the Genesis, Wonder Boy and Monster World, Mutant
Jeez.
League
Yeah.
Football, E.T., and I'm just like, I know who Howard Scott Warshaw is. I know who
Yeah.
Nisha Sawasan is. I know who Michael Mentheim is, and I'm just like, I've interviewed some of these people before.
Yeah.
I'm like, an interview anthology, letting these people tell their stories. Like it all just like came to me. And so my two favorite things in the world, besides my wife and my kids and Dunkin' Donuts coffee,
Hmm.
is interviewing people and video games. You know? So I'm just like, if I could combine those two, that could be something really special. So I spent like a week to like pitching those like first five or six developers, but then also really taking a look at the other video game books that were out there. And many of them, nothing against them,
Hmm.
but were selfish endeavors. You know, the 100 greatest games of all time, the 100 games to play before you die. You know, all
Yeah.
stuff like that. Or you know, there's other books out there where they say in the intro these events may not have happened exactly the way that we're saying them. Like they've been changed up for dramatic
Yeah.
effect and stuff like that. You know, and Seth Rogen wrote the intro to one of these books. So if you want to
Hmm.
find out which book it is, you could do it that way. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want this to be like a raw, unfiltered, like look at. I want the developers to be able to say whatever they want to say. They
Yeah.
can go as negative as they want to go. They can go as positive, but I want this to kind of be like an interview anthology where the developers have an opportunity to finally have their say. And that's kind of like where it started. It started from a very selfless place. Like I love the video game industry, and I feel like developers need they deserve so much more respect than they've ever gotten. Especially like, you know, some of the people from the Atari, you know, era and the NES era that like some of
Yeah.
them aren't in games anymore, and they didn't even make enough money to like retire. They're in like completely different fields now. It's like it's wild. So I'm just like, I need to preserve these stories. I need to immortalize them. Um, and that's where it all like that was like the frame of mind. So I didn't see a lot of video game books that were out there like that. So I was like, this is the course I'm gonna go on. And then I just went on a crazy pitch spree. I probably pitched like 300, maybe 350 developers in the span of like 6 months, and I ended up getting like 50 for the first book. And then I didn't know if I was gonna write a second book or not.
Okay.
And then what started to happen was all the people that didn't get back to me for the first book started getting back to me, and I'm just like, okay. So then I just started to rack up interviews and hold on to them,
Yeah.
and then I pitched a sequel to my publisher, and my publisher was like, no, and I went, what, why? And they're like, you have enough content here for three different books. You have enough content for an adventure game book, you have enough for a sports book, and for a shooter book. And then I looked at everything that I had, and I only had like 33 interviews done, and I'm like, I can't do three books with like 10 sources each. I just did a book with 30, like with 36 games.
Yeah.
So then I went out and I pitched like another like 200 developers, and then that's how we get like, I mean, the adventure book has 31 games featured. The sports book has 35, the shooter has 39, and then the two upcoming books, the
Hmm.
minds behind the Sega Genesis games and the minds behind the Sony PlayStation games, those both have 43. And the seventh book, which I'm working on right now, the minds behind the Sony PlayStation 2 games, already has 31 sources, and I that's my manuscript's not due until like April, so I have plenty of time. Like I want to get like 50 if I can. So
Yeah.
it's been insane. Like it's been insane, but it's been so much fun at the same time. Like just to get to talk to you, like oh my God. But then to talk to Menheim so many times, to talk to
Yeah.
Howard Scott Warshaw wrote his book and is like, oh, do you want to write a testimonial for me? And I'm just like, what? So like
Yeah.
crazy stuff like that.
A lot of the 3DO guys will definitely vibe with you
Hmm.
um on that level. And oh, by the way, before I get to that, everybody, when he was talking about writing the book, while his wife was pregnant with his daughter, at the very opening of the minds behind the games, dedication to my wife Melissa and my daughter Josie. That's beautiful, my man. And
Thank you.
that's keeping that spirit alive and keeping it moving. I love that.
Thank you. I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's like this is why I'm doing this stuff, you know. It's like I want my family to have more than I had when I was a kid. You know, I want to have a
Hmm.
house one day, you know, like it's why I'm doing the comic book now, you know, it's just like why I'm doing all of this stuff. It's why I'm doing the voice acting now. It's just like I want my children, because now I have a son now that's a year old. It's like
Yes.
I want my kids to look at me and be like, how the hell did he do all that stuff? And then I'm gonna go, I'm not Superman. I'm just this regular person, and guess what? You can do it too. You know, like I want my two kids to be ass kickers. I don't want them to
Yeah.
take any crap from anybody. And it's like, how can you teach somebody to be a certain way if you can't be that way yourself? You know? So
Definitely,
it's
definitely.
yeah,
Um, Joshua Moreno Design, he's going to be on tomorrow. I think you two have a kind of similar vibe. So if you're
hey
not following
Josh,
each other, yeah,
I will
do that.
absolutely.
But I was saying 3DO, it was interesting. When I was there, um, they had this, 3DO's work ethic was like, hey, let's make things simple, fun, and try to get out a lot of product and uh, a lot of content quickly. A different strategy than a lot of other people were doing. I think they were trying to bring the casual game brand or style to
Hmm.
consoles, and it worked to varying degrees, right?
Sure.
But I learned so much from them. And one of the things in their culture, you mentioned Howard was easy to talk to, Michael's easy to talk to. That was one of the rare companies where I could just at my desk, I would stand up and say, "Hey, how do I do this? I'm working on Johnny Mosley and I can't get this effect to play right." And Howard would say, "Go." And Howard would stand up and he's like, "Is such and such here? Yeah, go talk to Simon." And it's this crazy. It was this crazy, open and flowing kind of environment. And if I had a problem with something, it was just an immediate. You pick up the phone. Hey, are you at your desk? Yeah, I'll be over there in 5 minutes. Get ready to talk about X, Y, and Z. And we go over there and talk about it. We're not scheduling meetings. We're not like, overly planning things out, but they just had this kind of speed and openness that, like, when I got the email from you, I think I was just like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And if I change my mind, I'll just say no later. And, it wasn't a big kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I got that from 3DO, and I was so glad to meet a bunch of people that were on that vibe. So yeah, those people, still exist, and there are still
Oh,
places
they're
where
great.
they push. I don't know if you're on if Steve Woida is on your radar.
I've been to. He's in your shooter book.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah, I
remember
love
we
Steve.
talked about him. Totally missed him in the shooter book. See, I haven't gone
Yeah,
through everything. So many good
yeah.
stories.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, he has so many. He's one of those guys who has a lot of these ideas, where he's just kind of sitting around. We'd be sitting around at lunch, and he's kind of chuckling like, it'd really be badass if we did this, this, and this. And everybody likes to say that, but he's one of those characters that if he says it, he's already thought about it to a massive degree. And you kind
Hmm.
of have to look at him like, what are you up to, guy?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. He gave me for Quad Run on the
It's
Atari
Quad Run, of
2600.
course. I'm sorry, he is in the book.
That's
I
okay.
totally remember now. I'm,
Yeah,
I'm very tired, but yes.
that's okay. The that chapter, he just gave me so much, not only on his intro into the industry, which was super
Mm-hmm.
interesting because the industry was still being formed at the time when he was getting involved, but how he was able to, like, he's a freaking mad scientist, how he got the
Yeah,
2600 to do all the stuff that he got it to do for Quad Run. And that's a game that's so
yeah,
underappreciated because it was made in such a small batch.
yeah.
So yeah, he's one of those guys that you're just like, man, he's smart. And the only place that I've ever worked that I felt like that was
Mm-hmm.
NBC. I was an editor at NBC
Okay.
for like almost 3 years, and I covered two Super Bowls and a presidential election and two Olympics, and like it was so kick-ass. Like I was the overnight editor, so like Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So it
Mm-hmm.
was like all the wrestling events, all of the boxing events, NFL, football, Saturday Night Live. I covered 2.5 seasons of Saturday Night Live, so it was just like I was totally like in my element. Like Whitney, when the night Whitney Houston died, I was the editor. Like that was in
Right,
charge.
right.
And like I remember on my 30th birthday, my wife, who was my fiance at the time, she snuck up. I snuck her up into 30 Rock, and she brought like two pieces of cake, and we celebrated my 30th birthday. They wouldn't give me off on my birthday,
Yeah.
and it when it was slow, I used to play Pokemon. You know, it was like when it was slow and nothing was going on, I was playing Pokemon. So my wife was like, "This is what you do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of just like literally stick my legs out the window of 30 Rockefeller Center and just chill out." And then all of a sudden it was like, dun 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 dun, like the verdict for the Trayvon Martin murder case is in.
Yeah.
And it was just like boom, boom, boom. I was on the phone with like four people, and like it was like my wife wasn't even there, and she was just like, "Holy crap!" Like that got like that went from like zero, but it was like if I needed anything and I called this person, I called that person, Dick
Yeah.
Belsky, Dan Mock, they always had answers for me, and I was able to do so much cool stuff there. Like the only reason why I left really is because I got a full-time job, teaching college that like had tenure and stuff like that. But it was just like that was such a fun place to work. Like
Yeah.
because you were given the tools to kick ass and you were surrounded by people that knew how to kick ass. So
Yeah.
it's just like the sky was like the limit there. It was just so much fun. So I totally feel you.
Yeah, you know what? And that sounds kind of like what Rockstar was for me,
Hmm.
in a place that was, you know, they worked hard. Um, and people talk about how, Dan Hauser mentioned, working, crazy hours. He wasn't talking about like banging on employees. He was like, no, no, no. There are people who only work, their 40 hours and they're done. They do their thing. There are plenty of people like that there, but at Rockstar, they kind of left this, okay, here's the basics, and anything outside of that, you can do if you want, you know. And from Dan Hauser to Sam Hauser to Leslie Benzies to all the head guys there, they were on all the time, and it gave you this sense of, wow, if I sounds cliche, if I apply myself, I could do great things, because they just kind of let you, hey, you want to go try something out? They would never say no. They're like, we'll have somebody here over the weekend, so you can come in, try something out, do whatever you want.
Hmm.
I mean, we have our limited basic lane that you stay in, but you have access to all the research, you have access to all these computers. Go do what you want. So that's where a lot of people got into the working hard thing at Rockstar, but it
Yeah,
was a more freeing environment for people who had energy and wanted to put it to something.
absolutely. NBC was the same kind of way. Like I remember during Hurricane Sandy, um,
Hmm.
I had to go in because they didn't have anybody and we didn't have any electricity in my house. So I had to send my wife to like her aunt's house. And I could have stayed home, but it was like it's NBC, man. Like this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and
Yeah.
it would be silly stuff. Like I remember Bieber was on Saturday Night Live,
Hmm.
and I'm sitting in my cubicle, and my boss comes over to me. He's like, "Why don't you write an article about Bieber being on SNL?" Meaning, just sit at my table, my cubicle,
Hmm.
and write an article. And I was like, "Well, if you look out the window, bro, it's raining and there are about 500 teenage girls that have been sleeping in tents to go see Justin Bieber. Give me a camera. I want to go downstairs. I want to hang out in the tent
Yeah.
for a little while." And they were like, "That you really want to do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know." And I did, and I wrote a nice little article, and then like we got good traffic, but then BuzzFeed took my photos and reposted them, and then it was just like the article like blew up, and I was just like, if I was at another newspaper or another publication, they might not have like embraced that. NBC, they were like, go do it, go do it. And I'll never forget
Yeah.
like sticking my head in like somebody's tent, being like, "Oh, I'm from NBC. Can I talk to you for a second?" It's just like I loved that type of like atmosphere where it was like, we have all of the technology that you need, anything that you need,
Hmm.
you can do it. And then I mean, you said it, like if you wanted to work your hours and go home, you could do that. But it was just like I think the reason why I loved NBC so much is like I knew that I could get Wally pipped at any second. And if you guys don't know who Wally Pipp is, it's like he was this all-star baseball player for the Yankees,
Okay.
and he felt sick one day, and he told the Yankees manager to take him out of the game, and the guy that replaced him was the Iron Horse, Lou Gehrig, who's like one of the greatest players of all time. And Wally Pipp
Yeah.
really never played for the Yankees again. So it was just like, you know, I wanted to make sure while I was at NBC that like there were nights when I was throwing up at my desk, and I was just like, just keep typing. There were nights that I was arguing, with my parents over something or fighting with somebody over something, and it was just like I had to block it all out and get my stuff done. And in 2.5 years, I mean, I wrote like over, like it was like a 4 day a week job, and I wrote like close to 2,000 articles. So it was just like I had an insane like
Yeah.
amount of work. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I remember the last day that I left, I was outside 30 Rock, and they have like the NBC logo on the wall, and I just like rubbed
Hmm.
it, like thank you. It was like a horse.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just like, thank you. So it's something that I'll never forget. But it's just like when I left NBC, I tried to carry that work ethic with me to teaching,
Hmm.
and I don't want to say that it failed miserably, but
Well, you find
academia,
different obstacles, right?
yeah, academia is just completely different. I've had to like kind of tone myself down academically, because I can't be that bull of fire all the time. It's like intimidating. It intimidates people that are older. It intimidates people that are younger. So it's like I've kind of had to like pick my spots a little bit, but I can use that fire when I'm writing my books, when I do voiceover and I turn over quality voiceover the same day, and
Yeah.
how I could bang out a script for a comic book like, in a couple of days, and somebody goes, "How the hell did you write this? You got two kids,
Yeah.
blah blah blah." So it's just like I'll never forget NBC for like instilling that like let's kick some ass like, mentality.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you a crazy story. But before I do that, I wanted to say this is golden stuff because it touches on the thesis of my, I don't know if you've heard me mention, the ADD experience. That's what I'm pushing out. It's the art, design, and development experience. And that experience is a creative one where you build your own environment. Another cliche thing that, just works is, be the change that you want to see, and if you want to see things around you change, you put out that energy, you start creating, and
absolutely.
some forces get with you, some forces don't, and it's fine. But once you start getting in that creative zone, and you've definitely tapped into it, I'm not even going to guess, or ask. You've definitely tapped into that. Well, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You said you started Condry like years ago, and finally
20
it's
years
happening.
ago. Yeah,
20 years ago. People don't hear those stories. I mean, they hear those stories, but it doesn't connect with them until they've started to vibe with their energy, you know? So let us know a little bit about that 20-year journey for Condry. And you've got the background behind you, right?
yeah. My
Yeah.
wife just bought this for me
Awesome.
for comic book day. She's freaking awesome. I mean, Condry started off as I was an 18-year-old kid that loved comic books. Um, I had just gotten in a serious car accident. I compressed 3 vertebrae in my neck. I herniated a bunch of discs in my back, and I'm 6'4". I was like 225 pounds at the time. I wanted to try and like walk on to like a Division II like college hockey program. What I really wanted to do. I loved hockey.
Okay.
The sport, the history of the sport, that's something that I really wanted to do. And then I got in this car accident and couldn't do it anymore. So for like a good year, I stayed home. I read. Um, I was in a couple of bands. I had a lot of fun. I had more fun probably in that year, despite like all I was going to physical therapy 4 times a week, but like I had more fun than I had like ever in my entire life. Like just taking the train to like the West Village and going to like St. Mark's Comics and going to Midtown Comics in the city and going to Bulletproof Comics and going to Galaxy Comics and going to all these comic book stores and just reading stuff. Like I read pretty much like the first like 400 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and I
Yeah.
got into
Yeah.
like Punisher, and I got into Spawn, and I really like understood why I loved Batman and Wolverine as characters, not just because of their awesome like designs and stuff. So then I just got to the point where I was just like, I can write a comic,
Yeah.
and I wrote storyboards for like 10 issues of Condry, and I just was like, oh, I'm gonna find an artist, and this was like AOL days, you know.
Yeah.
And I originally, this guy that was in a band with me was like, "Oh, I have a great artist. He's a friend, blah, 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 blah." And he just like flaked out on me. He just like never gave me anything and just like disappeared. So then I ended up shelving it and started college. Then when I was in college, I met another guy and I was just like, "Do you think you could do this?" And then he flaked out on me. So then I ended up working at the college newspaper and getting internships and becoming editor in chief of the school newspaper. And now all of a sudden I'm a journalist. Now the comic book is kind of like on the back burner. But it's like I every like 2 years or so, I would just tighten the narrative a little bit more and just keep tightening and keep, playing with it and like never forgetting the characters and never forgetting that like one day I wanted to do something with this. And I would say probably like 8 years ago, I found this amazing artist, like photorealistic, like stuff. Like just
Hmm.
this guy is amazing. And we ended up having a meeting and sitting down. He's like, "I could totally do this." And then he sent me some sketches, and I was just like, "This is beautiful." And then he just like kind of like disappeared. And I'm just like, "Is this ever gonna get done?" And I
Yeah.
was just like, "You know what? Let's just focus on journalism, and that was going well for me, and teaching was going well for me and stuff. But it's just like there was always that like what if kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, and this is not me like kissing your ass, and this is not me kissing like all the video game developers that I've interviewed asses, but it's just like the minds behind the games made Condry possible. Because
Okay.
when I'm spending all of this time interviewing amazing people that have made amazing things, that's a motivating factor. And I remember I interviewed Craig Broadbooks, who did all the NHL face-off games for the PS1 and PS2, and those are some of my like favorite hockey games of all
Yeah.
time.
That was
And
a good
one of the
section. I like that one.
Yeah, thank you. Um, but one of the things that he said um, was be a finisher. Sometimes you're not going to put out your best stuff, but put it out because there's so many people out there that are just like, "Oh, well, I have this idea and I have that idea." It's like what you're talking about with Steve, where
Mhm.
you knew if Steve said something, he was working on it already. But there's
Yeah.
so many people out there that are just like, and I've met over the last like, I've been writing for like 15 years now. I've met so many people that are like, "I want to start a magazine and I want to do this and I want to do that." And I've always been the person that's like, "No, I'm gonna do that."
Yeah.
So it's just like, I would say probably like 2 years ago, probably like the summer of 2019, I sent a message on Facebook and I was just like, "I need an artist. I'm done. I want an artist." And my friend Tommy was like, "I have this guy Kieran. He would be perfect for you. And I'm gonna have a house party in like, a couple of weeks, and he's gonna come over, and you could meet him." Hi, PR Wolf 25. And I met Kieran, and I hadn't seen any of his art, but I just liked him.
Yeah.
Like he was my kind of guy, you know. And I
I,
met
I
his,
love that
I
phrase. You know.
like he was a Pat Hickey guy,
Yeah.
you know. And I met his fiance, and like I remember he went to the bathroom, and his fiance is like, "If you give him an opportunity to do this, he's not going to let you down. Like, he's talented, he needs a push, but I believe in him." And I could see in her eyes that she was 100% serious. So, like, I ended up going home, I sent him the script, and within like a month, we had a 6-page ash can done.
Yeah.
Like a 6-page short story, which became Condry Zero. And he's amazing. But then what happened was COVID started to happen, and we started pitching to like Image and Dark Horse and a couple of other comic book companies, and they either rejected us or they said like, "We're not hiring anyone new right now. We're not investing in any new IPs because of like COVID." You know,
Right.
and I'm just like, shit. So then I ended up getting contacted by Mark Burnell from Lesser Known Comics, and
Okay.
he wanted me to interview him for my site, reviewfix.com, which I've had for like 11 years. There's over 22,000 articles on there. I've interviewed everyone from like Philip Seymour Hoffman, Scott Whalen,
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior on there. Like it's one of my babies. I love that site. I own it. So whenever I see somebody that I get pitched, people ask me to interview them every day, every day. Um, indie musicians, indie playwrights, all sorts of people. And I love to interview people for the first time.
Right.
So it's just like I Google this guy and I'm just like, he's like a ghost on the web. There's nothing there. So I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll interview you. I interview him, Q&A, goes well, gets good traffic. And then he's like, oh, if there's ever anything that I can do for you. And I was just like, nah, don't worry. This is like, this is what I do. I'm a journalist, no
Yeah.
problem. And then like a couple of minutes go by and I'm like, you want to see something? And like an hour later, he's just like, yeah, we need to get into business. And like a month went by, and then Kieran and I were on board, and we've been with Lesser Known since February, and
Yeah.
it's been awesome. And I have so many goals for the comic, and it's just like just to see it, because I mean I could have totally self-published with Kieran.
Yeah.
We could have totally. And my whole thing is just like as a writer, I feel like you're not a real writer unless someone is willing to take a chance on you. Um, and also too, if you're willing to be exploited for royalties, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like part of the process. So it's just like for somebody to invest in us, was great. So it was like dream deferred. The comic is published, so it's just like I felt like I lived up to my own expectations, and I wouldn't have that regret. Like, what if this comic book came out? How would people,
Right.
so
Right.
it's just like that's done. So now my next goal is to get all of those storyboards that I wrote when I was 18, obviously modified now because I think I'm a far better writer than I was when I was 18.
Yeah.
Um, get all of those out and then continue to add on to the story. So it's just like accomplish the first goal, on to the next, and it's just like it's been so crazy, like the reception for the comic. Like I got messaged the other night from a friend of a friend, and this is a woman that's like she's not really like a comic book reader,
Mhm.
and she was just like, I can't believe Sarita shot Condry. Oh my God, like I did not expect that. Like she's talking about Condry 1, the end of Condry
Yeah.
1. She's like, I can't believe like that happened. Like what's next? And I'm like, just hold on because issue 2 is coming in a couple of weeks. And I was just like,
Right. Right.
this is great. Oh my God, So it's just been from some 18-year-old with really long hair to a 38-year-old who's a dad and a husband and a college professor and stuff like that. It's just like it's been insane how it all happened.
Yeah. It's and at some point you give yourself over to the energy. I call it like, you're sailing, at a certain level, you're riding the waves. You're flowing with the waves of the ocean. You're going your own path, but
Yeah.
there's definitely waves of force of, the winds, the water, and everything that you're going with. And I used to I used to think that it was, I had to do everything. I had to plot every course, but now I'm like, no, if the energy says, go this way and do that, you know, see where it takes you, it's not messing up my morals or whatever. Um, how have there, and actually, let me ask you, do I have you for another half hour or, okay,
Absolutely.
just checking.
Absolutely. Have me as long as you want me.
All right. Yeah. I usually run these to about an hour, but
Sure.
certain people will go longer or whatever.
Yeah.
And definitely, I want to thank everybody while we're here. FNA Online, PR Wolf, the Artist Dojo, Dogo 712. Everybody who's coming through, awesome. Love the feedback. Please drop anything in the comments. We might pick up on it. We might not, but we love you either way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um, so we talked about when you were at NBC doing your thing, and you were in the academic era, and you had that situation, where you were kind of like, someone pushed you and you pushed back, basically like, well, I'll write a book. And it's like, boom, well, we do this. I was talking with a business person that had Theo from the Show versus Business podcast. I was talking with him earlier in the week, and he's not a creative or an artist like I am, but he was very clear and was like, he's like, yeah, I really don't work with creatives, or I don't understand creatives that don't have any constraints, or they don't have any um, adversities that they're trying to break through. He's like, I don't understand those artists. And that was weird coming from a business person. I was like, interesting that he picks up on good creativity coming from constraints and adversities. So have you, how have you realized that in your journey? The adversities, the constraints, the seemingly, oppressive forces that lead you to really put your stuff out there.
It's funny that you say that because it's like I could kind of like connect all of my like turns in a different direction. Like
Mm-hmm.
the moments where like to make a gaming reference, the moments where I like really leveled up
Yeah.
was when somebody tested me or when somebody said something or when I realized something about somebody, or when I realized something about myself. Like I remember at NBC the first year that I was there, I did whatever they told me. I was like the company guy and I was miserable. And I remember I was in the bathroom and my editor was like in the stall next to me. And I'm just like, bro, I'm miserable. I'm like, I don't want to be here. And he's like, what? What? And I'm just like, I want to write about video games. I want to write about sports. And he was just like, so what do you want to write about? And I was just like, well, I got an email like 20 minutes ago. Um, I'm like, there's a game coming out for the PS3. It's probably going to be like one of the last great games on the PS3. It's called The Last of Us. It's in development right now. And I'm like, it's not going to come out for like another 8 months. And I'm like, I can go down the block. They're in a hotel room right now demoing the game. I'm like, I want to interview the team. I want to write an article about it. And he was like, okay, go. And I was just like, I was scared shitless. No, no pun intended. In the bathroom stall, I was scared shitless. Um, because I'm just like, I'm taking a huge risk here because I'm making really good money. I'm paying for my wedding with this money, because I was already teaching full time, and then I would come
Mm-hmm.
into NBC 3 or 4 days a week to make money to
I
pay for
see. I
my
see.
wedding, and I was doing. I mean, it was a part-time job, but it's just like I absolutely adored it. But at the same time, too, the first year, I was scared to like really be myself. Like I would wear a suit and tie all the time, and that's not me either. Like I want to wear a
Mm-hmm.
football jersey. I want to wear a band tee. And jeans and stuff like that. And then it was just like after I started writing that Last of Us article was one of the best things that I wrote for NBC. And then after that, I was lucky because in the hotel room they were also demoing God of War Ascension, so I interviewed those guys too. And then it was just like boom, boom, boom. And now they gave me free reign. And then it was just like, oh, you should cover SNL. Oh, you love football too. You love hockey. Why don't you have a fantasy football column? So it was like that was one point where I like stood up for myself
Yeah.
and I was then able to do the things that I wanted at work, in academia. Like I've been teaching for 15 years.
Yeah.
I have my CCE, which is like tenure, and but I'm only 38, and it's like before COVID, I was still confused for a student. I would come onto campus and they would go at like 5:30 in the morning. My class wasn't until 8, so I could write and I could jog around, campus and stuff like that. And they would be like, no, 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 we're not going to let any students in here. And I'm just like, I've been teaching here for 13 years. Like, I'm a full-time professor. And they're like, oh, let's see your ID. And it was just like all the time it would happen. And so it's just like I would have to like work really hard to get people to take me seriously because I looked young, despite the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I had been there for so long. And it's still like to this day, like people, like when I tell people that I have books in Harvard's library, in Yale, in Stanford, in Michigan, in UCLA, in Simon Fraser University, in the University of Shanghai, and stuff like that, they're like, "Oh, that's great. What are your books about?" And I'm like, "Video game history," and they go, "Oh." And I'm just
Yeah.
like it's stuff like that, so it's just like even though like I've done really cool things, I have like a niche audience that super appreciates me, but then I have a whole bunch of like a whole nother cross section of society that'll never take me seriously, so it's just like that's like something that I grapple with a lot. But then at the same time too, like I said, 38 years old, comic book voice actor, the books, like teaching and stuff like that, so it's just like every time somebody tests me,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to rise to the next occasion, like rise to the level I feel like that I have so far. And I mean, I said this on a podcast before. I said like throughout my entire life, I've never been anyone's first choice for anything.
Yeah.
but I'm
It's
always their best choice, you know?
it's actually kind of liberating.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's just like I hate to tell people I told them so.
Hmm.
So I just have to give them like the De Niro look. When I do something that I said that I was gonna do and you didn't believe me, I could just go and they know and they're just like, you know what? Yep, he did it.
Yeah.
He said he was gonna do it and he did it. So it's just like it's liberating. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. It's liberating. It's just like when I first did the Padre, the voiceover for the Padre, everyone was like, "Oh, that was really cool." And I was just like, "Yeah, man, like I starred in a video game. Oh my God, that
Yeah.
was so much fun." But then I said to myself, I got to do another game because I don't want to be like Ace of Base. Like I don't want to be like
Yeah.
a one hit wonder. Like I wanna like have a body of work. I want to connect with as many people as possible. So it's just like that's the hard part too, but that's liberating too when something else comes out and you could show people like, yeah, I'm more than like a one trick pony. So it's just like I love that adversity. I love when somebody, you know, says something mean or something snarky or says something stupid and you could just go, okay, and then you don't have to get vindictive, you don't have to get nasty, you just do what you do. It's like I'll give you another perfect example. So like I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday and it was one of those artists that flaked out on me for
Okay.
Condry, and I sent them the comic and I said I did it. I told you that I was going to do it and I did it. And I didn't mean it in a nasty way. And he was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, like check it off your bucket list. That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you, blah blah." Because we're old childhood friends.
Okay. Okay.
And then I said, "You want to do a variant cover for me?" And he goes, "Absolutely." So my whole thing is like I don't hold grudges.
Yeah.
I don't burn bridges. It's just like I want to give as many opportunities as I get, and it's just like this guy is a great artist,
Yeah.
and he may not be the guy that's like destined to do my series because Kieran Quinn is.
Yeah.
He's the man. I love his work, but this guy could do a slam and cover,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So
You,
it's just like that's what it's about.
it's interesting. I've at some point I started talking to some woo woo people, and I'm not knocking it, but that's what they call themselves. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, yeah, you want to talk woo woo, and I'm like, okay, sure. But I've always been a spiritual person, but she really kind of, brought it out and was like, hey, we can do this, da 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 da. Do you want to talk to my friend who does tarot? I'm like, well, okay, let's take it, one step at a time. I just want to find
Yeah,
out what you're about.
sure,
Um, and you remember, I come from a computer science background,
sure.
so I'm on a different kind of wavelength.
Hmm.
And I started reacting. I started figuring out like, oh, a lot of what she's talking about, it's not like it doesn't make sense. It's just coming from another direction.
Hmm.
And when I when I started like looking at a lot of the different energies that were around me, and I just mean what people are trying to do in their lives, what they're putting out, um, I realized that I was getting mad at a lot of stuff for quote unquote disrupting my energy. But that really wasn't what was happening. Um, so, like you were saying, you talked with this guy, your childhood friend, and it's like, hey, you want to do a variant cover or whatever. You just kept your energy going. For
Yeah.
whatever reason, it didn't match up in the beginning or the outset or the
Hmm.
way you expected. But lately, I found that like it's so much faster and so much more efficient when you take these so-called adversities, so-called constraints, limitation, people saying, like, hey, he can't do it, or naysayers like, well, maybe you should just stick to whatever. Wherever it's coming from, you can use that to your advantage.
Absolutely.
Because when I was talking about naysayers, no one, a lot of people just don't want you to get hurt, or they don't comprehend it themselves.
Hmm.
And I was spending all my energy fighting these people.
Absolutely.
And at one point, like when I was on table tennis, I was on like all the time. Um, Rockstar Games table tennis was a turning point for me. And I was basically I made a deal with the with one of the people at work where I could expense off certain things. I started expensing off my laundry. There was a Walmart on the way to work. I started expensing my socks. I started just expensing random stuff, and the amount of money that I was spending wasn't high, but it was just like, HR would be like, "Why are you buying socks?" And it's like, listen, I'm walking around the studio all day. Sometimes I take off my shoes. If you buy me socks, I just feel better about working. That's how it was. That's how on I was, where any little disruption, where it's like I have holes in my socks or they're dirty, I'm running out of whatever, any little disruption would bother me. And if I felt the company was on my side, then I could just keep working, right?
Hmm.
So I asked, can I expense socks? And they're like, excuse me? I want to buy a bunch of socks and, walk around outside, indoors or whatever, change them, throw them away, put on new socks, keep going. But I say that kind of,
Great.
yeah, it's just a weird little thing that happened. And, I say that to say, like, if you're not, I know a lot of creatives are here in the chat. If you're not finding a way to keep your energy flowing, you're probably damaging yourself in some way.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like what I've experienced a lot in my life is that people that are in control, people that have power,
You mean like bosses or
sure, yeah,
management? Okay.
bosses, upper management, people that aren't creative but get to make the decisions that affect the creatives,
Mhm.
they like to think that they're creative. So what you have to do is you have to be creative in how you deal with them. So sometimes you have to make them think that they came up with the idea that you came up with that they would never approve by themselves. So just like
Yep.
that happens to me all the time where I just say to myself, okay, I want to do this, but how do I make so and so think that it was their idea? Or I'll just
Yeah.
drop a seed in somebody to see if they do something. And if they do it, then I'm just like, they get it. They have good energy. They want to create, so it's just like to me sometimes that's exhausting. And I feel so bad for my wife sometimes because like I'll explain stuff to her like, oh, this is going on and then da 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 da, and she's just like, well, just say this. Like my wife is awesome, where she's just like point A to point B. She'll be like, well, you want to do this, so just tell them, and I'm just like, can't do it like that. Gotta like da 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 da. So it's just like I spend a lot of energy trying to get people to do the things that need to get done, and they're like either too ignorant or too short-sighted to see. And I think that sucks, but it's also really cool at the same time when that like behind the scenes you were the person that like initiated something really cool to get done, and that you'll
Yeah.
never get credit for it, but you were the person that like head started something. So yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. And the credit will come in surprising ways.
Hmm.
Um, I actually, when I said I was on all the time, I actually was doing so much at with the table tennis stuff that I ended up like really learning a lot about table tennis. And I was
Yeah.
talking to the animators and the programmers. It's like, well, hey, wait a minute. If the guy is taking a step to the right and ball bounces a different way, your trajectory is going to be way different when you try to return it. And we started getting into the crazy, you
Yeah.
know,
Uh-huh.
depths of the physics of the ball and the way the human
Yep.
body moves. And I got so deep in that area that towards the end of the game, I got sent a message to, hey, you need to review the credits on the game to make sure that, and everybody does that. It's like the lead designer, the programmer, it's like, hey, review the credits to make sure everything looks in order and it's how we want it to be presented. So
Sure.
I'm going through the credits. I have an animation credit in there, and I'm like, so I didn't want to like, I don't want to like knock myself off the animation credits, because that's kind of cool.
Hell yeah.
But I don't want to like say, excuse me, sir, I don't belong here. Please remove me. But I wanted to make sure it was correct. So I had a conversation with one of the lead animators at Rockstar, not at Rockstar San Diego, at
Hmm.
Rockstar Corporate. And, he called me and he was like, yeah, you credit where credit's due. And that was all he would say. Yeah, I didn't want to get into any specifics
Love it.
about what I did here, there, or who I talked to, but I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
totally didn't expect it. But once I landed that credit, all of the animators who were like a mob, basically, all of the animators in the company and the studio were like, hey, man, thanks for what you did. You got the credit here for this and that. And I was like welcomed into a new group
Yeah.
that,
That's awesome.
so yeah, when the credit, as the adversities come where you don't expect it, so will the good. So I didn't want to make it seem all bad when we
Absolutely.
were talking about that before. Um, Tax Collector said, Conjure looks really cool, and I like a lot of your IG posts. Awesome.
He's
1202,
awesome.
yeah,
Tax collector is awesome.
1202 Salon and Spa. I've seen you around here before. Thanks for coming back through. Demahu, this is the ZJ Spawn Comics from Bogota, Colombia. Awesome. Um, you know what? This little interruption right here that I just did. This is why I kind of connected with Instagram Live.
Absolutely.
It was doing different things
Sure.
that other social platforms weren't doing. So I love that.
Absolutely. We just had another person, F&A Gaming. That's actually Mark Lundbeck. He is a writer
Okay,
on Mutant Football League. So he's
nice.
mega cool. And then the artist dojo is my buddy Afram, who is an amazing actor and writer. So it's just like,
Hmm.
yeah, man, crazy people are popping into here. This is really cool. Dima Who is one of my students from like 10 years ago.
Nice,
Crazy.
nice.
Yeah,
So yeah, if you don't catch the whole thing, it'll be on the IGTV tab. I'm also
sure.
I found a way to also kick this off to YouTube, so I'll save these
Nice.
out.
Yeah,
And as I said in the post, I didn't like the way my website was going, so I'm going to rechange it, reformat it, and have all this much more organized. Because doing this once a night or multiple times a night, I'm building up a lot more content than I thought. So I need a website that'll organize it properly.
absolutely.
It'll all be awesome, and
Yeah,
you'll see.
man.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned jogging a while ago. How is that going? Staying on the physical side, not just writing and being behind the books and everything.
My wife is great at that. Like my wife makes sure that like we are out as a family, like walking
Hmm.
pretty much like every day, even in the heat. And like sometimes I'll be in the house and I'll just be like really like rawr. I won't know what to do. And she's like, you need to
Hmm.
go for a walk for like an hour. And I'll just put on like a playlist on Spotify or even like the Jerky Boys or something like that. And I'll just go for, I'm telling you, I'll be walking. It's like I fell down the stairs and my shoes fell off and I'm laughing like a crazy person. But it's like I'll get in like my, 10, 15,000 steps and I'll come back and my kids will want to play and then we'll put them to bed and then I'll be like, all right, I can bang out a chapter now and I can get some writing done. So it's just like she's definitely been like if it wasn't for my wife, I would probably be like 400 pounds and I would probably have a lot of writing done still, but I would probably just be like this Jabba the Hutt looking, you know, disaster. Like she's
Nah,
totally like
you look good, man.
I'm trying, man, and that's the thing. It's like it's an everyday thing, So it's just like she totally like keeps me honest that way. So it's and that's the best thing too. It's like when you can look at yourself and like feel like okay, I can fit into the clothes that I want and stuff like that. And like because I mean I used to be a lot heavier. Like I used to be around 380, 390 pounds, and now I'm like 250 something. So I'm I've come a long way, and feeling good about yourself inside definitely helps you mentally, definitely helps you be a little bit more creative. Um, definitely gives you like that extra incentive. And then too
Yeah.
with like kids, I mean, I would never want my kids to be like, oh, that's my dad, and be the one that has like no energy,
Oh yeah.
like I wrestle with my kids every day. Like my daughter's 4 and she knows how to like, hit a diamond cutter and a DDT and stuff like that. Oh my God, like we have so much fun. And it's like if I was heavier, I wouldn't be able to do that. And maybe I wouldn't be like as creative. So just like, again, I go in my man cave every day and my daughter knows what Sonic looks like. She
Yeah.
knows, and it's like I've invited her into this world that I'm a part of. So it's just like that all goes with being comfortable with yourself
Yeah.
physically and mentally.
It affects you. When I was at Rockstar, they brought in a masseuse, right? And the masseuse wasn't just there to massage people. The masseuse was actually like a wellness practitioner.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
after like one or two sessions, where they there's a little banter beforehand and afterwards. And after like one or two sessions, I found out later that it was part of their job to promote wellness in us. So she would like, hey, so, how you doing? You stressed out or not? You feeling okay? I missed you last week, or what's this about? And are you eating okay? And
Hmm.
after a while, I was like, well, hey, I mean, am I eating okay? What does that have to do with, come on, man, all we eat, Mountain Dew and pizza, let's
Oh yeah,
go,
yeah.
because, and once we got the wellness practitioner going on, she was like, no, 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 you can actually order different food. That's just like the standard that comes through.
Hmm.
So we started ordering, hey, can we get this? Can we get that? Um, can we get time to walk? Okay, instead of having the catered food on Tuesdays, that'll save us X amount of dollars. Can we get benefits at the gym instead?
Hmm.
It became this whole thing, and you know, you don't think about that kind of corporate level awesomeness where they're trying to make you better people.
Yeah,
But once I started seeing it, I was like, well, wait a minute. How can I change my diet? What can I eat? Oh, this type of food is not good when I'm trying to think through things. It's really weird
absolutely.
when you start realizing it. Like
Sure.
I would eat. I was telling somebody else. I don't want to say depressed, but I got really upset and in a funk, and just needed to clear my mind. So I played like chess for 8 hours, not straight, but 8 hours in one day. I looked at my phone and it told me you've been playing chess for 8 hours. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, but but yeah, it's like I was in a funk in my head and I was like, why am I not thinking clearly? And it was what I was eating. I was like,
Absolutely.
if I need to think in this type of way, I need to eat this type of way. If I'm going to do something physical in this type of way, I need to, consume this, avoid that, et cetera, et cetera. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know how you changed up your diet or what you eat to keep going or whatever, but
I love protein. I
mhm.
drink protein like crazy. I mean I drink a ton of coffee, but I mean I love drinking protein like as a meal and like mixing stuff in with it, like spinach and fruits and things like that. Like I when I wake up in the morning, that's what I like to do. I like to get a protein drink and then mix in like a banana and a little bit of coffee and stuff like that. And that's like, I try and take in like, anywhere from 75 to 90 grams of protein a day. I try and stay as far away from like garbage. I do not drink soda at all.
Mhm.
I have not had soda in probably like 8 or 9 years.
Excellent.
So yeah, so it's just like, yeah, absolutely. It's like what you put in is kind of like what you get out, and that's the thing too. It's just like I used to tell my students this all the time that like I would consider maybe like 2004 like my first real year as a writer, like getting published, getting paid
Yeah.
for stuff. And it just like I remember at like December 31st, I like counted all the articles that I wrote. Like I did like a control like F and highlighted everything or a control V, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. So then it became like a ritual. And like every December 31st, I would see how many articles I wrote. And since then, I mean, I've always written. I can't speak English. I've always wrote more,
Yeah.
like for the past 17 years. And I think like I can't speak English. I've wrote more the last like 2 or 3 years because I've really focused on taking care of myself. I think that's the most important thing is like taking care of yourself. And it's just like little things. It's just like I love to listen to new music that I've never listened to every day.
Hmm.
I love to watch. I love wrestling. I love watching wrestling matches every day that I've never seen before. Like just exposing my mind to things that I've never seen before. But then at the same time too, after I've seen something that I've never seen before, going back to something that I've loved and seeing if my opinion changes.
Yeah.
Like things like that. I do that a lot. I reread things that I used to love when I was a kid and look at them now and go, or I go, oh my God, like this is why I connected with this so much. So just like
Yeah. Yeah.
that constant thinking. I mean, the last script of Conjury that I wrote probably like 3 weeks ago, I dreamt the entire thing.
Yeah.
Like I woke up and I just wrote the entire dream out, and I was just like, this is like one of the best things that like I've ever written before. And it was just like I take such good care of myself lately that like my mind is still working while I'm sleeping, and it's working so well that like I can actually
Yeah.
use some of that, you know? So
Hmm.
that wouldn't have been the case like 5 or 6 years ago. 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
ago, when I went to bed, my body would just be like, like just
Yeah. Yeah. Th-
snoring, like just ridiculous. So
Yeah. And that totally, also tax collector, the BMG era was awesome. I don't want to forget your comment there. Um, when we were talking earlier, much earlier about, let's see, you were writing everywhere. Like, you say you were writing on the bus, you were writing when
yeah,
you were going this. How did you do that? What were you writing on?
phone on the
Your
phone.
phone? Okay. Do you have
Yeah,
any
on the
special
phone.
app?
No, no, just the notes on
Mm-hmm.
on the iPhone, and then what I would always do is when I would get off the bus, I would email it to myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'd go to my office and I'd open up the email and I'd throw the email in Microsoft Word, do a spell check, tighten it up, maybe throw it through Grammarly after that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. I remember when I first started writing, like I needed my laptop, and now it's just like iPhones are so amazing. And I remember like before the iPhone, I had the BlackBerry, which I love too, and I would just bang out stuff. And like with
Yeah.
the BlackBerry, I would just open up a new email and I would write an article like in an
Yeah.
email. So it's just like I'm old school like DIY. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all I need is my phone. Before I had a phone, I would always have like a journal or whatever, and I would
Mm-hmm.
I would write stuff by hand. But then that would take so much time to bring it back and type it up. So now it's just like now I just type everything.
Yeah.
So, but
So I agree with you there. The voice memos and the notes applications
mhm,
have been
awesome.
just excellent for me. Awesome.
Yep.
And
Yep.
transcribing with audio. Once I
Hmm.
once I got over the people kind of looking over at me when
Yeah.
I like, so there's a guy standing next to and I'm describing a scene,
Hmm.
and people are looking at me like, yo, he's talking about people standing next to him and no one's there. What's the
Yeah.
transcribing into notes. I actually had to compartmentalize, like you said before, and I do all my writing in Evernote now, and I use um, the regular notes app for whatever else, like hey,
Hmm.
da 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 notes here, whatever. But it's weird just compartmentalizing. Every time I open up Evernote, I'm actually thinking about, okay, I'm going to write something, I'm going to plan something out, I'm going to this and
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
and we have the tools.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I remember when I was in high school. I mean, we were poor. I didn't have a computer. Um, and this is like 2000, 2001. My family couldn't afford a computer, and I had an old school like I Love Lucy like typewriter, and I would type everything, and it just made writing so miserable for me. I didn't like to write, um, even though I wanted to, because I was an avid reader. I loved to read, and it wasn't until I got like my first like I bought like a Hewlett Packard like computer at like Best Buy. I grossly overpaid for it. It probably had like 64 gigs of hard drive space. It probably had like 2 gigs of RAM. Like it was, no, it had like 512 megabytes of RAM or something like that. Like what a
Mhm.
disaster. But it had Microsoft Word, and that's what I wrote the original script for Condry on. All I
Yeah,
needed was Microsoft Word, and it was like a whole new world. AOL dial up and Microsoft Word changed my life forever. You know,
yeah,
like so wild. You know.
yeah. You said oh, I'll jump to this first.
Sure.
So Artist Dojo says, any advice for new writers?
Do it. Just do it. If you're a writer, you need to write. You know, if a platform doesn't exist for you to express yourself on, create it. Just like I started Review Fix because I wanted to write about video games, comic books, and stuff. And I had just graduated with my bachelor's degree in
Hmm.
journalism, and I didn't have a college paper to write for anymore. So I'm just like, I need to continue to write while I look for a job for a newspaper. Like, I need new clips. I need to stay in the mix. I need to continue to do interviews. I need to
Hmm.
stay sharp. So I spent the money. I created a website, and then my friends started to be like, "Oh, what is this Review Fix? You're sharing links on Facebook and stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, that's mine." And they're like, "Oh, can we write for you?" And now I'm sending my friends to go cover plays in the city, or I'm getting
Yeah,
comics from Image and Dark Horse and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, well, can I review that?" And I would send them the email, and and now we've got over 20 something thousand articles on the site, and it's just like, if you're a writer, you're like a punk rocker. You're
Yeah.
DIY. You just get it done. Get it done every single day. You're gonna make a ton of stupid mistakes, but make the mistakes, grow from them. Don't make the same mistake twice, and just keep going. Like
Right.
that's my best advice. Just do it. And
Yeah.
like as Craig Broadbrook said, like be a finisher. Like if you're gonna do something, do it. Don't make excuses. Don't be one of those people like, oh, I'm gonna sit in Starbucks and I'm gonna write the great American novel every day and sip on my frappuccino and stuff. It's like, get it done. Like when my wife was in labor with my son, it was during COVID and I couldn't go in to triage with her like right away. We had to wait. So it was like I'm sitting there and I'm just like super aggravated and I'm texting with her back and forth and she's like, "You
Hmm.
need to just relax. If I need you, I'll text you when you could come in." And I'm just sitting there and I have my RG 350 with me, which is like this handheld emulator that could play like everything from like the Atari 2600 to the
Yeah.
PlayStation.
Yeah.
So I just started playing Parasite Eve, and then the the creative director of Parasite Eve emailed me back with the answers to my questions.
Yeah.
So I just started, while I'm in the waiting room for my son to be born, I wrote the Parasite Eve chapter for the Minds Behind PlayStation games. So it's just like, that's what a writer does,
Yeah.
Like, so it's just like, once you get past all of because there's so much sexiness around writing. It's the same thing, come on, Ben, with
Hmm.
video game developers. Oh, you're making a game, blah, blah, blah. And they don't see that. Like, you're sleeping at your desk because you need to get shit done and you're going to just
Yeah.
take like a 45-minute nap and stuff like that. They don't see like the struggle, they don't see all of that. So it's just like you've got to just be in it. Like it's like being married to something that will never love you as much as you love it, but you're okay with that. Like that's what, to me, that's like what writing is.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense to me. You know, and writing is funny. And I'll, let me know if I'm off base with this, but finding your inlets and your outlets, where are the things coming into you that inspire you to write, that move you to write, that cause you to stop and scratch your head and think about something, writing worthy.
Hmm.
Maybe you get that from watching old television shows. Maybe you get that from listening to people at your neighborhood Walmart or convenience store. It could come from anywhere, wherever you get that. And your outlets. Maybe you like to write on the phone. Maybe you like to carry around a notebook. I had so many different notebooks that I was trying to, I was like, why do I like writing in this one better than this one or whatever? And
Hmm.
now, like if you ever catch me looking down, I'm usually taking notes in my little 99-cent store notebook here.
Hmm.
They're 5.5 inch by 5.5. They're half a page size normally, and they just fit right here on my desk just right.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And yeah, I found the right kind of pen. I like these little zebra. I mean, not the zebra, the Pilot G2s. You know, and they
Yeah.
just work for me with the paper. And it's like, yeah, this is my little way of doing that. This is my way of
Yep.
doing that. And getting to a flow of where you're just putting out the content and you're not held back by any nonsense.
Yep.
If you don't like Microsoft Word, try Google Docs. You don't like Google Docs, you may get super heady and go for Scrivener if you want.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
See, like I use TextEdit, which is so like vanilla.
There you go.
It takes up no like RAM on your computer. Like
Yeah.
it is just like so bare bones,
Yeah.
and it's just like it just works for me. You know?
Someone like laughed at me in one of those condescending, he's weird kind of laughs when I said I have to use um, this very simple program because those microseconds of lag when I'm just trying to type, hit enter 5 times and start a new sec. I was like, those microseconds of lag annoy me. And if I have something like text edit or whatever else, it won't have that lag. And it just works better for me in that case. And they're like, it's just so weird. Microseconds of lag? What are you talking about? Be patient. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, whatever. You're not in the zone. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing though too. I think that's like some good advice. Like some people are never going to get what you do. And that's okay. Like I said, I mean, I have books like in colleges that I wouldn't even be able to afford to go to ever in my entire life, and I have books in countries that I'll never be able to afford to fly to, you know, but somebody in those countries, somebody in those colleges is appreciating it in one way or another because that's why they bought the book. That's why they invested in me. So I think that's always the challenge. Like keep doing what you're doing, love what you do, and you're going to find amazing people to invest in you.
Yeah.
And it could be the smallest thing, it's just like perfect example right here, this table runner that I got that I hung over here. Like my wife's not a comic book reader, she doesn't play video games, but she loves me and she invests in me
Yeah.
because she sees how hard I work. So that's the thing. It's just like if you work hard enough and you preach like passion and you have patience, it's gonna come to you eventually. And it's like I tell my students all the time, all the people that I know that are unsuccessful in like the career paths that they took,
Hmm.
it's because they quit. There have been so many times, like I remember when I was in graduate school, I would go to graduate school all day and then I would come home for like 5 seconds and then go teach at night, teach college at night. And there would be so many times I was at Times Square and the train would be coming and I was so exhausted that I was just like practically falling asleep as the train was coming down the
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh my God, can I do this? And I was just like, you know what? I don't know if I can, but I'm not giving up. I'm gonna see it through. I'm gonna do everything that I have to do. And that, I mean, that was 2010. That was 2011. That was 10 years ago. And I've done some crazy things since then for the simple fact that I never ever gave up and I continued to produce and I continued to test myself and I
Yeah.
continued to whenever I saw opportunity, like I mean the whole reason why I became a voice actor was because I was editing dialogue on a game and the voice actor left and they didn't even know that I could do voices.
Yeah.
So it's just like whenever you see little opportunities, you just jump in and you're never scared and you stand up for yourself and you know your worth. I mean, all of those things. I mean, and a lot of that comes from taking care of yourself emotionally, because it's like if you're not taking care of yourself emotionally, then you don't know your worth. Then you don't know what you can truly accomplish. Then you don't know, like, the
And you
bar for
and you
yourself.
and you don't ask those questions like, hey, maybe I can do that, or hey, why don't I ask them about this, or why don't I just? So yes,
Yeah,
I totally
yeah,
get that emotional the block that you're adding for yourself. What's up,
absolutely.
Tony Macaroni? She seems like she knows about the business here.
She knows me. She's amazing. She's like an awesome like self-starter. She does yoga. She's done like she makes t-shirts. Like she's a rock star. She does so many cool things. Like she's
Awesome.
she's one of those people that she's not a comic book fan, but she like gets hustle because like I mean if that was like her middle name, that's what it would be. It would be like Tony Hustle Macaroni.
Nice.
So yeah, she
Uh,
gets it.
Slim Jones tune. How do you feel about Dan Harmon Story Circle? Actually, I was planning on having a complete talk about this at some point in the future. I know you probably have something to say about it, Patrick, but um, that's a deep discussion. You got a short answer for that?
No, I haven't gotten into it yet. Like I've heard people talking about it and stuff like that. So it's just like yeah,
I
that's
would say
something
it's
that I've got to do.
yeah, I'd say it's an evolution of the hero's journey kind of thing, where you begin and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a discussion I was going to have with a theater guy, one of my old friends. So yeah, I'll definitely be sure to follow up on that. But if any of you who are in the comments, or who are here watching want to follow up, I can't really record all of the comments you make during the live. But if you make sure you comment on the actual post or any of my posts on my profile page or Patrick's page, at me, at Mr. Benja, or, at Patrick Hickey Jr., we'll definitely be sure to get looped in and keep the energy going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, really quick, I got you for the other half hour. Like I said, is there anything you want to ask of me while we're here? Because we don't always get together and talk.
Yeah, like I mean, so many like amazing people. It's just like one of the things like I always wanted to ask you is just like was there ever a moment for you where you were like I'm done. Like you didn't want to do this anymore. Like be creative, and then how did you respond to that?
Um, so in being creative and just trying to build things, for so long, I had outlets. Like when I was in high school, I was drawing a lot, and I had a good relationship with the coach of the football team, which meant that any of the banners that went up, you know, I get pulled out of class and I could create. Um, the game ball would come out, and I'd be able to take off like fifth period or whatever and just draw on the game ball for the entire
Awesome.
team. So, you know, the computer lab was open to me and I was doing the computer thing. So it's like, well, hey, Benjamin, can you come in on Saturday and help me set up the computers? We'll pay you. And it's like, as a high school kid, I'm like, hell yeah.
Hmm.
I get to play on computers and get paid. I'm there. So I always had these outlets. And when I got to a point in quote unquote the real world where people didn't want to hear from me, not that I wasn't putting out good stuff. It's just that sometimes you run into a position where what you're trying to create has no outlet. Then it got weird. And I was like, no one, there's no predefined outlet for any of my creativity. Um, I was talking to galleries and they were like, yeah, get out of here, kid. I was talking to people on the internet and they're like, well, hey, maybe you can do game art. And I'm like, it's not exactly what I'm trying to do, like build art for games.
Yeah.
That's so I started running into a lot of, just areas of no outlet. I was in undefined territory, unwritten
Hmm.
space. And the pushback I was getting from people started getting to the point where it was really frustrating. My mother said, you need to give up on this. I was actually working at Sony at one point, and Sony didn't want to hear my ideas. And I was like, these are good ideas. This is what you asked for. Oh my God, let me create it. And, when an entire company of like, four sub studios, they have different teams, they're like, no, we want you to do this, but we don't like your answer or we don't like your way of going about it. And I'm like fuming. I'm like, you hired me because I know open world, but you don't want me to build the open world in this way. What the hell are you talking about? And, I'm flipping out. And yeah, multiple people, multiple arenas, multiple levels were just like, no, we don't like this. No, we don't like this. And I really was about to pack up, move back to New Orleans, and just be done with it all. In fact, it was to the point where I left a bunch of stuff in a storage unit. I'd already packed it up in the storage unit. I'm getting letters from the storage guys like, hey, we're gonna auction this stuff off and da da da. And I was like, I don't care. That's all my old life. I'm giving it up. I'm done. And I actually did let that lapse, and that stuff is gone. So
Oh wow.
yeah, but I was so because I had paintings, I had materials in there, I had books. There was a small TV in there. It was just like I didn't care. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with that. I'm just going to move back to New Orleans, do get a job maybe with my aunt or work at whatever. I was just going to be done. And this is how much that not getting that creativity out was frustrating me. Um, but then someone that I knew contacted me, or I was just contacting random people, but I made a connection with them, and they said, "Hey, come down and check out this whatever." And that was what we were talking about. Being open or having the clarity of mind to ask questions or accept different avenues. And I said, you know what? I was actually I was living at my brother's place at the time temporarily while I was getting ready to go home. So technically, I decided to be homeless. I was like, screw that place. Um, I had I was in Palms in California, and it was they had just upped the rent to $1,800 a month for a studio. You know, so I was like, the only reason I stayed there was because it was a very creative area. It was close to Sony, Paramount, a lot of areas in Santa Monica that you hear about, the pier and all that, Malibu. It was close to a lot of stuff. That's why I was out there being creative. But when no one wanted to hear from me, I was like, pay $1,800 a month, listen to you guys, and I got this going on, and whatever, da da da. So I'm arguing with the lady at the rental office, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to sign another lease. Screw you. I'm done with this. And I didn't have a place to stay when I'm saying this,
Wow.
right? So yeah, I moved in with my brother, and the whole plan was to move in with him while I figure out how to move back to New Orleans and give up.
Wow.
But I got a call. I got a call from somebody that said, "Hey, come check this out." It had nothing to do with my situation. They didn't know that I was about to just leave everything behind, and they didn't know that I was living with my brother and in this crazy funk. But they just contacted me and said, "Hey, come check this out." So I was like, you know what? I love when people put me on game. They say I might be interested in something. You know what? That's the kind of energy I put out. I'll respond to it. So I talked with this person and ended up becoming like the IT manager of this artist studio area. It changed my trajectory completely. And I wasn't mad at myself, but I was very not shocked. I was very just studious of what had just happened. I was really observing what just happened. I was like, I almost took a crazy route outside of what I really want to do. I almost possibly closed the door on my own passion. That's really interesting. I don't know if it would have turned out better or worse, but that almost happened because I couldn't find a creative outlet. I couldn't make I thought I couldn't make one, but one was there. So so yeah, that was one of those moments where I just almost gave it up and was just like, screw it.
That's
Um,
wild.
yeah, it was just, and people on the outside looking in. I didn't tell many people this because at the time, most people would have been like, suck it up, you
Yeah.
can't get your way in life,
Yeah.
go do something else, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm working at Sony, and we're having so many problems that they ended up letting me go when the project cycle ended. Basically, in video games, if a project cycle ends and they don't like you, they don't fire you. They just say, "Oh, project's over."
Mm-hmm.
And they do kind of firing without firing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I totally expected it. Project ended. They were like, well, hey, we've assigned everybody for the next project. We don't have a place for you on this project anymore. And I was like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And it led me down a couple months of spiraling into, I don't want to say badness, but just into a new area of, I don't understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
my
That's
lowest
wild.
creative moment.
I feel you, man. Oh, that's great. Like that, I mean, it's a great story in the fact that like you learned like a lot about yourself. I mean, I feel super similar because like academia, like if you don't have tenure, is super similar. It's like you finish the semester if you're an adjunct and you're part time, you finish the semester, you put in your grades, and then it's just like
Yeah.
we don't have a class for you, you know? And it's like I remember, I'll never forget. I just got my master's degree from the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism, which is like a top five journalism program in like the entire world. It's the Craig Newmark School of Journalism now. And I had gotten stuff published in the New York Times, the Daily News during my time there. Like I kicked ass while I was there. And I got a phone call from the college that I'm full time at now, that I have tenure at now and stuff. But they were like, yeah, your courses got canceled for the winter.
Mm.
And I didn't have another job. And I had interviewed at NBC like 2 months prior. And they were like, oh, we'll call you in January. And now it's like January 2nd. And the semester, Kingsborough semester, was supposed to start in 2 days. So I was looking forward to having two classes for the winter semester. and my 2 classes got canceled, and now I don't have a job for like the first time in my adult life. And like I wanted to move out with my fiance, like move in together with my fiance and stuff like that. And I was just like, what the hell am I gonna do? And for like 3 hours, I was just like, what am I gonna do? And then NBC called and they were like, can you start like 3 days from then? And I'm like, I can
Yeah.
come in right now. I'm like, I could take the train right now there.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, like, can you come by in like 3 days and get started? And I was like, sure. And then the day before I was supposed to start at NBC, my college called me back and they're like, oh, well, we have 1 class for you instead of 2. So then I was just like, now I have to make a decision. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the 1 class because I need the money,
Hmm.
but I'm going to kick ass at NBC. And because this is what I really want to do, and I'm going to kick ass there and stuff. And then it was just like I kicked ass at teaching too at that semester, and that led down another good path. And like again, it goes back to like what I said before about not holding grudges, not burning bridges. And 3 years later, I was 31 and I was a full-time college professor. So it's just like that doesn't happen. And I could have easily like I saw that one door close and I could have went on and just stayed at NBC and they and ultimately offered me a full-time job too. And then I had to pick between those and that's a story for another day. But it was just like I never let like one door completely close. And it's just like I'm sure you feel the same exact way. Sometimes it gets crazy because it's like you really have so many doors open. You have so many choices
Yeah.
that you can make every day in your life, and I can't stand when somebody says I have no choice. And just sometimes you have a shitty choice. Sometimes you have a collection of shitty choices, but you always do have a choice,
Yeah.
So it's just like it's up to you to make the best choice for you. And in your case, you made a choice that was best for you at that time, and it changed you. And I'm so happy that you did because like it means that like we're here today and we're having the conversation that we're having. So it's just like, crazy stuff happens. Like I think to myself all the
Yeah.
time too, like if Conjury would have came out when I was 18, oh my God,
Yeah.
awful, awful. It's like like I said, every couple of years fine tuning that made like the
Yeah.
difference. And then like the 3 artists that I went through that it didn't work. Like by the time I met Kieran, I just said to myself, I'm not going to give him a storyboard. I'm going to give him like, I'm going to turn this into like a short story and I'm going to be like, read this and make it come alive. And then I will put the words back into place and we will tell the
Yeah.
story that way. So I ended up giving him like a ton of artistic freedom and to tell the story. So like, I mean, I'm the creator and the writer, but like he has just as much authorship of the story too, because like I've given him that type of creative freedom, and I think I didn't give that to the other artists, So it's just like again, everything happens at its own time for the craziest reasons, and like sometimes there are no answers, Sometimes there will never
Exactly.
be answers, and
Yeah.
it's just like as a journalist, I've spent like a big part of my life like trying to tell other people's stories and trying to find out facts but it's like it's really crazy because it's like sometimes facts don't exist. I mean, we've had conversations before like in the book like about war jets. Like
Hmm.
some people would be like, "Oh, war jets, oh, who cares?" blah blah. Blah. It's like a bargain bin, but
Yeah.
it's just like when you look at it if most people haven't even played it and it's just like when I played I'm just like this is a really cool game that like I mean
Yeah.
Rocket League I mean, this is like Rocket League 10 years, 15 years before. Like, there's so many cool things going on here. And just like so many people just talk about things that they've never experienced. They jump on the bandwagon. Then we've got the whole
Yeah.
cancel culture thing. And just like so many people are like so unwilling to experience as much as they possibly can every single day. And when you meet people that go to bed exhausted because they've worked so hard and tried to experience so much. And when you meet people that wake up tired because they've even been experiencing stuff like in their dreams, like those
Yeah.
are the people like to me that like I want to hold on to like for the rest of my life, So just
Hmm.
like, somebody like you, your wheels are constantly turning. You're constantly trying to think of like new ways to move things. That's just like that. Those are the types of people that like I want to be around, And it's just like, again, opportunities like this to meet people like you, like like we said before, Howard Scott Warshaw. Like for
Yeah.
me, Tony Barnes is another guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love Tony.
Yeah.
Like I talk. He is freaking like he is so smart. Like he's so out there in the best way possible,
Yeah.
And it's just like I love people like that, and
If
it's just like that
yeah.
wasn't around 10 years ago. So now it's just like
Yeah.
I just want to enjoy it.
If when if E3 ever becomes a thing, and I mean becomes a thing again, and everybody starts going to it, you got to make sure we get out there, hang out, because when you mentioned Tony Barnes, I immediately think back to E3 stories where everybody's talking and laughing, and he's sitting around kind of quiet, and then he suddenly goes, you know, and drops a Tony Barnes story, and everybody's just like mind blown. So I love it, man. I love the connections. I think we've hit upon some really good stuff here. Good
Yeah,
value for the people. As I
yeah,
said, I'll be putting these out to YouTube and the podcast platforms, so we'll definitely have a place to save it and refer back to it. Um, so before we get out of here, is there how can people find you, and where what are you doing right now that they should be looking out for?
oh my God, whole bunch of stuff. So, but I'll try and get it over with as quickly as possible. So the minds behind the games, we've got 4 books out currently. The minds behind the games, the minds behind adventure games, the minds behind sports games, and the minds behind shooter games. Those are all available. Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, McFarlane, Amazon, all over the place. I'm currently working. I have 2 books that are available for pre-order. The minds behind Sega Genesis games and the minds behind Sony PlayStation games. I'm currently wrapping up the minds behind PlayStation 2 games. That's probably going to be the last book in the minds behind the game series for a while because I mean
Okay.
seven books in like 5 years. I gotta let like the market catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that all of those books are available in all of those places. However, if you really want to support me, the best way to support me is to go to my site, patrickhickeyjr.com, patrickhickeyjr.com /books. You can buy all of my books directly from me, and what I will do is I will personalize your book and I will throw really cool stuff in there. So it's just like if you're like from Oakland, you're probably going to get some Raiders. There you go. Yes, yeah, I wrote in your book. Um, so I'll write in your book. I'll put cool stuff in it. If you like wrestling, I'll put like some like wrestling cards in there. Like I try and put cool stuff in there. I actually met somebody that admitted to me that they never played Madden. So like any Madden ever. So I went to the video game store and I bought the original John Madden on Sega Genesis for like $4. And I'm just like I signed it for them and I put it in the bag because I'm just like, yo, listen, you've got to play like the original Madden. That's like
That's
where it all
funny.
started. So that's for the books. For Conjury, you can go to lesserknowncomics.com. Conjury right now is the best-selling, their most downloaded book, Conjury Zero and Conjury One. They've got some great other books there too. All of the comics on there right now are all free to download. So if like you like comics or if you want to get introduced to comics, it's not NWO Slim Johnson. This is Bullet Club, so it's a little bit different. But it's the same thing. NWO, Bullet Club, they're all derivative of one another. But so if you want to read Conjury, go to yeah, that's right, for life. If you want to go the comic book route, lesserknowncomics.com, you can download all of the stuff there for free. I'm going to be doing a signing on Free Comic Book Day on August 14th in Bulletproof Comics, which is the biggest and baddest comic book store in Brooklyn. Going to have like around 250 books to sign, give away, all sorts of cool stuff. There's going to be variant covers, sketch covers. It's going to be like really freaking cool. Voice acting stuff. I am the voice of the main character in the Padre video game series. There's 2 games in the series. The Padre, which is available on Xbox One, PS4, Steam, Nintendo Switch, and then the Padre One Shell Straight to Hell, which is the sequel, which is currently only available on Steam. And then yeah, I've done voiceover for a bunch of other indie games like the Caillou Offensive and Relentless Rex, and I'm doing voiceover for Tony Barnes' upcoming game, Run, Die, Run Again. I'm the voice of the narrator in the game, which is super cool. It's a first-person like survival platformer. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I've done writing on a couple of games that are in development right now that I can't talk about because of NDAs. And I will just say that if you're a fan of my writing and especially Condry, to stay tuned in the next couple of months because I have several very big announcements that are going to be like mind blowing. So yeah, that's pretty much Instagram is my preferred social media platform, so it's at Patrick Hickey Jr. Message me, follow me. I interact with everybody. I'm not scared to
Yeah.
like talk to people. So if you have questions, throw them at me. And that's pretty much it.
Very cool. Yeah, you are the Instagram guy. One of the reasons we started a little late was because I usually pick some pictures to kind of post in my little gallery of like,
Oh
hey,
my
here's the
God, I'm
picture.
sorry.
And I was
It's
like, oh my
impossible to find.
God, I'm scrolling all these pictures. But
Yeah, yeah.
no, good stuff, man. I loved it. Well, cool, man. Um,
Thanks, man.
Thanks everybody who came through. Thank you, Patrick. It's definitely been a good time. A lot of good
Absolutely.
information passed here. I do have notes. As I said, I will link this up. Um, I decided to redo some of my website stuff, so I'll have that all put out there. Of course, you'll be able to find more information just by contacting us. Do that, interact, keep it moving. Patrick, um, we'll talk again. I'm just going to go ahead and
Absolutely.
say that we'll do another
Yeah,
one of these, if not on Instagram, whatever platform in the future,
sure.
VR shit. I don't know. I'll try it
That's
out.
right. One day that would be cool. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. All right. It's been good. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
All right. Go ahead and click a little button. I'm just going to round up. It was like a little cancel something there. Oh, see, this is that awkward moment where one guy is still not. There we go. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. It was definitely a good time. BenjaCon is a little celebration of my Comic Con experiences, my network experiences with all of these different minds and different people. I do this every year. I've just now started doing it online and sharing it with people. Before, I used to just get people together in rooms, hotels, or wherever we were hanging out, or conference calls, etc., and do this. So now I'm doing it online. Let me know what you think. Please follow along. We got a couple more people to round out the weekend, but this is the kind of thing we do here, and hope we had a good time. Follow on and have a good day.